Hi, everybody, Raven fans, Oriole fans. Thank you for joining us here on the Ravori Sports Podcast for fans like me. Like and subscribe to all of our social media content here, obviously here, also to Genesis Notary Services here in Winchester, Virginia. So definitely check us out here in Winchester for Genesis Notary Services. We will stamp your documents with care. All right, so we have a very special guest for you guys here today. A fellow member of the Castle. I know him. That's how we weren't in the same class together, but some of y'all obviously recognize him. One of the largest group of YouTube Ravens content creators here. We got Hendo from the RouG Pod, thankfully joining us this evening to talk about how the president of John Harbaugh fan club here. We're gonna talk about that. No, I'm just kidding, man.
I know.
Thank you for joining us, sir. Thank you very much for joining us. Honor to meet you here. Thank you for doing this. We're gonna talk a little Ravens here at the beginning.
Okay.
Obviously, from the end of the season to now, a lot has happened, hasn't it, Hendo? I mean, we've had Justin Tucker. We've had, obviously, the ending in Buffalo. Mm-hmm. We've had Lamar getting kind of beat down at the award ceremony. We got no Suggs, no Yanda in the Hall of Fame. Let's start with the GOAT. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but let's start with Tucker. Is it over for him here in Baltimore? Do you think he's going to come back?
First and foremost, thank you for having me. And yes, it's over. It's a wrap. When the allegations first came out, it was kind of like, everybody went with the innocent until proven guilty narrative. But then as you start to see more and more people come out, and then there are old tweets that came out from 21, they talk about how some people went to the team and kind of made light of the situation, and they did nothing. So there's more to this than meets the eye. Where there's smoke, there's fire, and something's going to have to be done, especially for a team that says we are a zero tolerance policy team. This is not zero tolerance, and they knew something was going on. They were aware of it, so they're going to have to do something because they don't want that negative spotlight on the organization.
You're confident that's it then? There's no. I'm thinking about Ray Rice this week, right? And I don't know where you are on Ray Rice. I think it's good that Ray is turning around his life. I don't much care for. I just got to be honest with you. So he got a lot of room. I think Ray Rice would have finished his career Raven possibly had there not been a video. Do you think this will blow? You don't think this will blow over? And if he doesn't get picked up, you think it'll be another team to take Tucker?
So for me, the situations are a little bit different. I think the video played a part in it. I don't think the video had the biggest part. People don't realize or remember that Ray Rice the year before only rushed for 348 yards or something like that in 16 games. He wasn't hurt. He played every game. He just wasn't any good. And I think if he'd have had another 1,300-yard season, maybe 12 touchdowns, things would have gone a little bit differently. With Tucker, he is, to some, the GOAT at kicker. He's had some struggles this past season, and I think that with his salary and everything else, they may want to move on from him, but he's still one of the better kickers in the league, so they may try to hold on to him. But I just think with the backlash that's coming, especially with things that went on with Ray Lewis, every time they went to an away stadium, just the things that were said and how the crowd reacted, I don't know if the Ravens are going to want to put up with that. And to be honest with you, nowadays, kickers are, I'm not going to say a dime a dozen. You have your elites and you have your ones that are very good. But if the Ravens do what they did this season and last season, they're not going to need kicks because they're going to score a touchdown. So to me, I personally think it's all over for them.
I agree with you about the kickers. Like, kickers now are better athletes, much bigger. I mean, I'm looking at I'm doing some of my draft prep there for and these kickers are huge, man. I mean, these are real athletes. These guys aren't just little Gonzalez soccer guys. I mean, these are guys that are 6'4", well-built guys that are kickers. But I don't think they want to do it. I don't think they want to. I think they like him. I think they'll do everything to keep him. Has Andrews where are you at with Mark Andrews and Likely as far as that goes?
Oh man! First and foremost, the one redeeming quality that I give John Harbaugh is the fact he's very loyal. That's the only credit that I give him. He's very loyal, and I do think that he'll try to keep Tuck around as much as he can, unless there is some irrefutable evidence that proves to the contrary. Now, when it comes to Andrews, me personally, I thought he was always a decent tight end. I knew that he was Lamar's security blanket. He was his number one receiver, but I thought that they kind of scapegoated that fact a little bit too much when talking about skill positions. They said, well, he has Andrews. We don't need a stud or number one wide receiver. But when it comes to the playoffs, we do need one. 8 seasons, Mark Andrews has 0 touchdowns. Isaiah Likely already has 2, and he's been in the league 3 years. So that kind of tells you the difference. In regular season, cool. You want to talk about his all-pro season in 21? Yeah, he did it, but we had a losing record. So to me, that production is irrelevant because you didn't contribute to winning with being an all-pro. But I give it to you because it's very hard to become an all-pro. But for me, I think Andrews should be gone. You don't show up in the playoffs. You average under 40 yards a game. And this is as Lamar's number one target over his career. You average under 40 yards a game, you have 0 touchdowns, and you seem to make the biggest mistakes when it matters the most. It started in 2019 with the tip interception against the Tennessee Titans. That just started the downward slope for us losing that number 1 seed and losing to the Titans. So to me, he's not a primetime player when it comes to the postseason. This game, if he'd just dropped a 2-point conversion, I could give him some grace, but that fumble, what was he thinking? Like he is not Gale Sayers. He's not Barry Sanders. Why are you trying to run into 3 people and juke them out? Like he to me just isn't worth the money. And I think he has an $11 million cap hit for next season. The Raiders have roughly $6 million under the cap, and they need all the money that they can, hopefully, to build a better offensive line for Lamar. Isaiah Likely has proven he can take his job and do maybe some better things because Mark Andrews is a straight line guy. Like he can get from point A to point B, no problem, catch the ball, go down. Isaiah Likely has a lot of wiggle to him. He can power over defenders, he can run past defenders, and I think that he would be a better option. And then you bring in Charlie Kolar and slide him up to take Isaiah Likely's position. And I just think that that's a better option. And you go out there and get a real number 1 wide receiver or a true possession or X for Lamar to throw to that he can count on in the playoffs. So Andrews, I mean, I was never really that big of a fan because to me, he's never come up big in big situations.
I'm hearing a lot of fans say that too. That Likely is the guy. But I want to ask you this question. Mm-hmm. Let's pretend Lamar is the GM.
Okay.
He has to pick. What do you think he wants? Because I think that's going to factor in.
I think he wants him gone.
You think he'd rather have Likely over in? If he had to choose now publicly, you know what he would say. He would say, "I love both guys." You know that he would say that. But in his heart of hearts, if he had to say, "Hey, which one you think he would take Likely over Andrew?"
Most definitely, because listen, a lot of people don't give Lamar enough credit for his mind. They always laud him for his athleticism. You know, he's always getting praised for the things he does on the field, but they don't know how intelligent that young man really is. And to me, I think in his mind, he's like, yeah, that's my boy and all. I've watched Hollywood go. So I've been through a scenario where one of my best friends is off the team. Now we take that $11 million and turn it around and flip it and somehow bring in, let's say, like a Cooper Kupp, somebody that's dependable. He's the Super Bowl MVP. He can catch the ball. You don't have to worry about drops with him, and you bring him in for those situations where you need somebody to get that first down or to make that catch. Yeah, friendship aside, Lamar wants to win a Super Bowl, and I think that means by any means necessary.
I hear you. I'm not so sure you're right. I know what the Harbaughs are thinking because Andrews is a more complete tight end. You're right about the clutch time and everything. Mm-hmm. I think not this friendship. I think that's not. You're right about that. Lamar's an outstanding decision maker, very underrated for decision making. But I do think with Lamar, Likely doesn't work with her in every situation. It works with Lamar, but Likely's an H-back. He's more. I keep making Frank Wycheck reference with him. He's not quite a tight end, not quite a fullback, not quite a. Andrews is easier the way they do things. You know, Andrews would fit on any team. I don't think they're as done with him as fans think. I think everybody's ready to move on Likely, but I think they're gonna stay with Andrews at least next year.
Okay, so with that being said, that H-back or that true tight end, who's been more productive in the playoffs?
Throughout the course of a career?
Oh, you can just add it up. You can add it up. I mean, you could whatever you want. You can put 8 years versus 3 years all you want. Who's been more productive in the playoffs?
I really don't know, like off the top of my head. I mean,
I
you're saying
I can tell you right now it's likely. I don't know if you saw that tweet about Hollywood Brown. In Hollywood Brown's 3 years as a Raven, he has more yardage and touchdowns than Mark Andrews has in 8 years. And Hollywood hasn't played here since what, 22, 21?
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
You're making a good point. Yeah.
And Lamar wants to win. He wants to win. Listen, we can be best friends and we can do amazing things. And I always tell people when I speak about things, I don't talk about things for the postseason. I mean, the regular season. I talk about things for the postseason. I'm not worried about the regular season. We always do great. We're going to win a ton of games. We're going to put up a bunch of yards. We're going to look pretty. But in the postseason is when it matters the most. And in the postseason, that's when Mark Andrews comes up the smallest. Isaiah Likely, for whatever you want to call him, he shows up.
All right. So you're ready for Likely. I hear you. I do want to talk about Sizzle and Yanda and Steve Smith here. Bit of a surprise. I think Yanda didn't surprise me because he's a guard. As good as he was, I think he may have to wait to get into the Hall of Fame. Steve Smith being a receiver is kind of harder. Very surprised we didn't have a Terrell Suggs nomination for the Hall of Fame. I mean, clearly, you look at his era of pass rushers, I mean, on the top of everyone's list. What happened there? I think I even saw your last video where you mentioned it was only 4 guys. Very strange. I thought it was a very strange group. Eric Allen, Sterling Sharp, no Eli Manning getting in. Very odd. Jared Allen. Yeah, I mean,
Antonio Gates.
What do you think happened here with Sizzle?
I don't think it had anything to do with the players in a sense. I just think that this year, I think that social media and just the internet plays a big part in everything that is done. I was just having a conversation with somebody on Twitter about Emmanuel Acho. I don't hate people like Emmanuel Acho does, because I know that he's a troll. I know he's doing things for clicks. I know he's doing things just to get people to watch him. And I remember early in the season, he said, listen, I'm really big on head-to-head matchups. So if Jaden Daniels beats Lamar Jackson, I would put him in front of him for the MVP. Well, Lamar Jackson beat Josh Allen, but he still voted for Josh Allen. And I think the same can be said when it comes to the Hall of Fame voting. I think that they're trying to stir up something, just drum up some more attention, because I can't remember the last time that the Hall of Fame only had 4 inductees. 4. And Jared Allen, he was, like I said, he was a dog. Wasn't in the beginning of his career. When he went to Minnesota, he did his thing. But Terrell Suggs has been Defensive Rookie of the Year. He's been consistent throughout his whole career. And one thing that the voters talk about is championships. Terrell Suggs has 2 Super Bowl championships. So for him to be omitted, I don't know. For me, it was just crazy to see all the old-time guys be inducted into the Hall of Fame. It was no new blood players. It was guys that have been passed over for years. So I just think that they wanted to push a narrative and just start something for the media.
Sterling Sharp was a direct result of Shannon Sharp's success. And I saw Sterling Sharp as a player. I mean, I'm not talking about whether he deserves to get in as a whole. That's a whole different thing. I don't particularly like Terrell Davis, Sterling Sharp, guys who with those great short careers, me personally. But this is clearly, I mean, where did this come from with Sterling Sharp, where all of a sudden now he's getting voted in? It's clearly because Shannon Sharp is blown up and his influence, and I think that has a lot to do with it. Now, with that said, Sterling Sharp was a huge underrated factor in the Packers' success, no doubt about it. So, but okay, out of nowhere like this, he hasn't played in 10 years. You got Sterling Sharp getting in the Hall of Fame. I mean, that's kind of what was one for me as well. Eli Manning, I am surprised didn't get in either. Very surprising. You could argue whether he could get in too, but I thought he would. I just thought he would get in.
I mean, Eli, you would have thought. at the same token of what you just said about Sterling Sharp, the Mannings have a lot going on in the media. So then the same would be said about Eli. Because of their media presence, he would have been inducted into the Hall of Fame. It just to me seemed like this was the year to get people who have been passed over and just get them in so they can focus on the new bloods, because Eric Allen was a dog. He was a dog at cornerback. But to me, I don't think that this was the year that they maybe included him in, especially with so limited amount of people. Like they just put some people in there. So I don't think it was because listen, Sterling Sharp was rivaling Jerry Rice at that time. Like Sterling Sharp was clearly 1 or 2 during his era. And if it weren't for that neck injury, we'd be having a different conversation. So I don't think that longevity necessarily dictates it. I think it's the impact on the game where you one of the best or the best at your position during the time that you played. And I think Sterling Sharp and Terrell Davis, I think that they were. Terrell Davis just held the record for most yards in a playoff run, most yards for a complete season. So it's certain things that they did. I mean, Gale Sayers, to your point, Gale Sayers is in the Hall of Famer because his career was so short, but everybody knows his impact on the game. So, I mean, I just think that this year with the voting, I don't know what they were thinking, to be honest with you, because they could have included those guys, but brought other guys in.
I agree with you. I mean, in that sense, I thought it was very strange. The MVP vote was very strange. I'm right with you with Josh Allen. I think Josh Allen. I think this was Karl Malone. I've heard that a lot today. You know, Karl Malone winning the MVP. Hey, do we have to give it to Jordan every year? Do we have to do that every year? You want to give it to Josh Allen. I don't have a big problem with Allen getting it, but clearly he didn't have as good a season as Lamar. I don't think anybody, is going to say that. I mean, Shannon Sharp and Ocho Cinco were killing these guys. Like, if you saw a nightcap or whatever. What are you at? Where you at on the MVP there? With that?
This is garbage. It was more about sentimentality than anything else. He's been so close for all these years. He doesn't have one. Like, he's a really good guy. He's improved as a quarterback. Now, Josh Allen is one of the great quarterbacks in this league right now. He's top 5, top 4, maybe even top 3, depending on how you feel about Joe Burrow. But to me, I knew how this was going to go when I saw the FedEx Air and Ground award winners. And they made him the air winner in the league, where he was 14th in the league in yardage with 3,731 yards. He was 7th in the league in passing touchdowns with 28. So you're in the middle of the pack when it comes to passing, but somehow you won the air award for best quarterback. So I knew what kind of situation it was in, because I thought he might have won another award, Sportsman Award or something. Like, it was just a Josh Allen type night. And I knew that this was coming because on Twitter a month or so ago, a couple weeks ago, when they were going through to play for the AFC Championship, somebody from the Denver Broncos, not the organization, just the fandom, tweeted, "Josh Allen, you're playing for America." And I knew what that meant, because you had 3 black quarterbacks and you had him, so he was their last hope. And that's kind of what it feels like, because statistically, like you said, Lamar Jackson, amazing. He was first team All-Pro. He's the first quarterback in NFL history to have 40-plus touchdowns and less than 5 interceptions. First quarterback in NFL history to pass for 4,000 yards and rush for 900 yards. Like, he has eclipsed so many things this year alone to where he should have been the MVP. And the Buffalo Bills fans are going to tell you, well, Josh Allen had more wins than Lamar Jackson. Well, Patrick Mahomes had more wins than Josh Allen. What are we talking about here?
Okay, so you kind of did it there, and you kind of did it on your stream. You kind of talked around it, and I'm not going to. Okay. The race thing, right?
Yeah.
Lamar, I think, has a bit of a problem, kind of similar to me to Allen Iverson had, right?
Of course.
They always kind of frame it as marketing, and there are certain people, and I saw this in the contract negotiation, that are just not going to rock with Lamar.
Right.
Straight out, like, I mean, that's just how it is. Fair or not, I think everybody's past the point of saying he can't pass and all that. But that's kind of crazy. But there is a level of we have to have a Josh Allen there, right? We have to have the Mannings there. We have to have there's a certain group of Ravens fans even that don't like. That's been my experience over the years. So I certainly think that's a factor for some people. It's unfortunate because look, going forward. Look, Cam Ward in the draft, Shedeur Sanders, Jaden Daniels. You look at next year's draft, you're going to have it's changing.
Yeah.
So I think you're hoping for that. I mean, you might be waiting a while for that. It's kind of unfortunate that we still have fools out there thinking like that.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, it's crazy because and to me, I don't think that they necessarily need a Josh Daniels. They just need someone that they feel safe. If you're going to be the face of the league, which Lamar Jackson could be because he is the best player in the league. Shout out to Patrick Mahomes. He's the greatest winner in the league right now. But talent-wise, Lamar is the best. But the one thing is Lamar doesn't speak the Queen's English. Lamar is comfortable in his own skin being himself. He wears gold fronts. Like, where have you seen a quarterback do that? I remember there was a lady on got on the radio and said that Lamar Jackson played bad because his cornrows were out and he didn't have his hair neat. That's why he didn't play as well. Like, they're looking for any narrative to push him down, and we get a lot of it, like you said, from even the Ravens fan base. There are a couple of YouTubers I remember that were talking about Lamar during the contract negotiations, and one of the guys was like, "Who do you think he is, Josh Allen?" And that's when I stopped watching him because I was like, "Yeah, I already know."
I know who you're talking about. I'm not gonna say the name, but yeah,
it's two of them. It's two of them, but the Weasley looking one, he was the one. He was the one that said it. Then you had Ryan Mink. He works for the Ravens.
Yeah,
he also was in there talking about, well, Lamar should take whatever they give him. Now he's all, oh yeah, Lamar's the best. Lamar's the best.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, tuck your racism in, tuck it in just a little bit. I mean, you're representing a team that has a black quarterback who is the best player on this team. Without him, I don't care what they do defensively. This team doesn't do much of anything. But yet still, people within the fan base, and I go on the websites a lot, and I see certain people, and I can tell where they're from and who they are by some of their comments when they talk about Lamar. They don't give any blame to John Harbaugh. They don't give any blame to EDC, who just had an interview talking about, I got Lamar the weapons and I got him the offensive line. When? You got him offensive line this year and said, hey, we'll be good next year. What? We're in the Super Bowl window now. You're talking about next year? So, it's always going to be on us because we have to work twice as hard to be half as successful. I mean, even in Ravens YouTube, since we want to be honest with everything, even in Ravens YouTube, there are some YouTubers out there that get a pass and have a little bit more success for other reasons, whereas we have to work twice as hard and like I said, get half the success.
Well, I'm not going to go too far on the YouTube thing, but the algorithm, right? Mm-hmm. Looking like we look, they send the videos to people who look like we do, right? And so that's less people, so it's it makes it more difficult. That's like a lot of things. So I definitely think that's true. Real quick, can't go out without talk. We're gonna go a little bit further, but John Harbaugh. I know you're gonna disagree with me when I say I thought Harbaugh was better this year as a coach on offense. He featured a running back, even though it was Derrick Henry. It should be obvious. He did much better. He had a bell cow because I've never seen him with a bell cow since Ray Rice was here. He actually was featuring a receiver. Usually with the receivers, he says, well, you kind of get what you get. This is how it flowed, blah, blah, blah. Actually throwing the ball to Zay Flowers early and often in games, not just the tight end. So I thought there was some improvement. I thought the Falele thing was ridiculous.
Okay.
Ben Cleveland should have played at some point. Defense is always good when they got anything you're going to give Harbaugh good this year is as far as a grade. As well. Anything you could give him positive there?
I give him a C+. To your point, with the Falele situation, with the Andrew Voorhees situation, Derrick Henry was great because he's Derrick Henry. He did well in spite of this offensive line and your head coach putting people in his doghouse instead of playing the best players available. Now, when it comes to featuring Zay Flowers and the wide receivers, that was Lamar taking more control of this offense and audibling at the line and making certain decisions, and Todd Monken doing his thing. I don't think that had anything to do with John Harbaugh, because if you watch John Harbaugh, especially on Hard Knocks, he just stands on the sidelines and looks clueless. Now, fast forward. Now, I will say he did get better towards the end of the year in managing games, his challenges, bringing out the flags, his timeouts, and everything like that. He did get better. I give him that much. But then once again, we get to the playoffs, and what happens? Same old thing. We get that bell cow. Now, Derrick Henry is 10 times better than Ray Rice. but he got 16 carries. This is how we lost each and every season prior, not running our running backs. And yet and still, here we are again, going into Lamar Jackson's 7th year, and we're losing the same way. And you can tell it's starting to get to him, because at the press conference after the game, they said Derrick Henry's 16 rushes. Oh, that's just how the game went. All right, gotta leave. He knows. When do you, my only issue with John Harbaugh is, when do you learn from past mistakes? Everybody, listen, everybody ain't cut out to be Bill Belichick during the height of his career. I get that. But when did you sit there and say, all right, this year we lost because we didn't run the ball. This year we lost because we didn't run the ball. This year we lost because we didn't run the ball. Now we have Derrick Henry, one of the all-time greats, and we don't really run the ball.
Last year I'm with you as far as the Kansas City and the Chiefs. I'm totally with you. You should have ran the ball. This year they were losing. I think that had something to do with it in the game. They weren't winning the whole time. When you're behind, you tend not to do that. And I don't think the Ravens are the only team like this. A lot of teams forget to run the ball. I mean, I see this across the league. Finally, this year we had Barkley, we had Henry, we had some teams running the ball. I don't think he's the only one guilty of that. Go ahead, you were ready to take my head off.
No, I'm not taking it off. It's just, you're right. Most teams don't do that, but we get down by 3 points of panic. Other teams are down by 21 and you pass the ball. But to me, the biggest indictment in all this is, and everybody's been telling me, well, you get behind, you got to pass the ball. Derrick Henry is one carry away from 80 yards. I think that's more likely than us throwing the ball down the field consistently during a playoff game. Derrick Henry breaks one tackle, it's 40 yards. You're down 10 points. 10 points. You can make that up easily. So to me, that's not really an excuse, because we weren't down far enough, especially early in the game, for us to not run the ball. Third quarter, what happened? We ran the ball, scored a touchdown. They couldn't stop it. Their defense is smaller than ours. We're supposed to impose our will on them. We're supposed to play Baltimore Ravens football. We're supposed to be the bully. We're supposed to be the bigger, badder team, but Buffalo out-Ravened us. But then in the third quarter, we got back to our identity and we ran the ball on them. And then we said, you know what? That worked. Let's zag instead of zigging, and let's go back to passing. And this is why we lost. We get down to the goal line and score a touchdown. You run a 2-point play and have Derrick Henry in motion. So as a defense, I'm like, oh, he's not in the play. Let's focus on the pass. Like, it's just certain decisions that John Harbaugh does, because I don't blame Todd Monken for a lot of things, because every coordinator that's been here outside of Gary Kubiak is running John Harbaugh's system. And we keep running the same 2-point play that hasn't worked in the past. That's not Todd Monken.
I agree.
So
I totally agree. I said that at the beginning. I stopped even saying Monken's name for a while because I'm not falling for that anymore. We're seeing the same stuff with different coordinators. It's the head guy, not the coordinator. Absolutely right.
So I'm just saying, like, everybody's like, you're a John Harbaugh hater. Like I had like 20 people unsubscribe to my channel. They're like, you're a John Harbaugh hater. I'm like, I'm not a John Harbaugh hater. What I am is I'm a realist. I realize that there are people that can only take you so far in life. There are people that can get you to a certain point, and then from there you have to move on. And I liken it to the Golden State Warriors. Mark Jackson came in and turned the Golden State Warriors around. He got them from being one of the worst teams in the league to playoff contenders. I think he won 50-something games, 57, 51 games in his last season, and they fired him. Brought in Steve Kerr, and what happened the very next season? Won a championship, because Mark Jackson could only get them so far. You bring in a better guy. John Harbaugh can get us winning seasons. He can't get us playoff victories. He can't get us playoff runs or get us to a Super Bowl. 2019, 2023, there is no way you're telling me those two teams shouldn't have won a Super Bowl title at the very least. But being John Harbaugh wants to do things his way and not concede to certain things and have a doghouse. I'm trying to win a title. I don't care about a doghouse. I'm playing my best players. I'm not going to sit up here in front of the media and say, hey, you're a wide receiver that wants your catches. You're a wide receiver worried about numbers. Don't come to Baltimore. Who says that? Of course, wide receivers worry about catches and numbers. That's how they get paid. You're going to make your money regardless what happens, but they're trying to get contracts. And for him to say that, he turned people away from coming to Baltimore. And of course, the narrative was always, they don't want to play with Lamar Jackson. And it's all because of the head coach.
Marquise kind of said it. He said the system. I didn't buy that for a second. He knew he was never going to make money in Baltimore if you're going to run all the time and you're not going to get catches and all that. He was just polite about it, set the system. That's why he asked for a trade.
But that wasn't even it. It wasn't even the system.
I know. I'm just saying that's what he said. That's what he had to say. I know, but that wasn't what it was.
No, a lot of people believe that it was the head coach because look, I mean, it was the organization. Look at that season. He had 1,009 yards receiving, 1,005 yards receiving that season, right? Look at the first 8 games. At the first 8 games of the season, he was on pace for 1,400 yards. First 8 games of the season. The last 8 games, what happened? And I understand that Lamar did get hurt. What did they start doing? Bubble screens, reverses, throwing him little hitches 5 yards from the line of scrimmage. They were intentionally trying to drive his price down if he were to stay in Baltimore. Like they are slick at the things that they do. It wasn't the system, as they were intentionally trying to lower his money so that they could re-sign him for less and get more defense.
Like what happened with Bateman. Yeah. Like pretty much. Bateman kind of had his own mess that he made there, but yeah, that's why they signed him. Yeah.
Bateman. That's gonna blow up. That's gonna blow up in our face. Bateman's gonna have 1,200, 1,300 yards next year, and then he's gonna be like, I'm underpaid at $5 million.
I hope you're right. I hope you're right. I want to talk the Ravens a little bit. I want to talk about you a little bit. Okay. You've been doing this. How long have you been running a Ravens channel? I think I've seen you in the last 2-3 years.
3 years.
How long has it been? How long have you been doing it?
3 years.
3 years. What inspired you to do this? As far as like doing Ravens content and all that, outside of the obvious. I mean, being a Ravens fan, living in Baltimore. You're a West Baltimore guy, right? From what I know. What you said on the stream.
You know that. So it just came a time where I just got into YouTube. Like I never really thought of YouTube as entertainment. Like I would just go in there and search for things. And then one day I came up on a podcast and I was listening. I'm like, oh, they're specialized. Like I didn't know that it was like that. And then that led me to Lunch Break Hot Take with Jose and Brodney. And I started watching them and I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I never thought about doing it because my thing was I speak from the heart and I speak how I feel. And it may be to my detriment but I'm never going to sit there and be like, oh, everything's not sunshine and rainbows with this organization, because that's all people want to hear. But then when I heard Jose and Brodney, I'm like, these brothers are speaking the truth. Like, yeah, cool. So I joined their Discord, and while I was in their Discord, like we hung out all the time and like we spent a lot of time together. And they told us, they said, listen, anybody that's interested in doing a YouTube channel, do it. Like, just do it. We got you. So I was like, I never really thought about it, but let me go and do it. So I went out, made a channel, didn't tell them. I did it secretly because I'm like, oh, I don't know how I feel about this. Even though I knew I had their help in their back, and even though they do Ravens content, they were there to help me throughout this whole journey. So if it weren't for them, I wouldn't be here right now.
Hey, I kind of see all you guys. I call y'all the crew. We talked about the barbershop. That's kind of what you guys sound like when you guys are all working. Where are you at as far as media in general? Do you think, are you still watching ESPN, FS1? I'm asking that. Kind of interested to see what content creators think. I mean, we were just killing Acho there. I think like just Kevin Wiles is just terrible.
Really?
Kevin Wiles.
When I see it, I just think he's funny.
Oh, he's horrible. I mean, he's absolutely just. He's actually somewhat stomachable in the role, the moderator role, but he's just terrible. I mean, and I'm not just picking on guys. I mean, there are some talented guys. Look, Shannon Sharp's really talented. Stephen A. Smith is really talented. I know he gets on people's nerves, but he's really talented. Where are you at as far as media? What do you think is going to happen going forward with that?
I don't really. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, this is what we grew up on. We didn't have this type of medium growing up. We just had TV and what they showed us doing the segments at specific time frames. So it got to a point where media became everybody's go-to. Like, this is how we find out who's hot, who's the up-and-coming player. Now we have more resources to dive into our own information on finding out about people. But I think as far as where media is headed, I think it's headed in the garbage. I think it's going to go away. This is why you have them firing everybody, because they don't need to have all of these sportscasters. They don't need to have all of these sideline reporters because everybody and their mother has a YouTube channel, a podcast. They have something going on. And I think that media is like, why am I paying these guys $8-9 million a year? The ratings are going down, and you have these guys on YouTube doing it for free that are more successful than we are. And we have a conglomerate. So I think it's going away because people just aren't people. And more importantly, people are getting rid of cable. They're not doing cable TV like we had growing up. So that limits what you can watch personally. Then they might see the clips, but nobody's sitting down watching TV. And I just think that a lot of it, too much of it is clickbaity. People say things that they really don't mean. They're just trying to get people to watch. They're trying to get some engagement. Like Stephen A. Smith, he's famous for saying one thing one day and then contradicting himself 24 hours later and act like I didn't say that. You didn't hear me say that. And I'm like, bro, it's on tape. Like we have you on tape. I can play it back for you if you want, but it's all about engagement. It's all about the views and the numbers. And I don't think that a lot of these media companies, the love for sports is pure. It's like everything else in life right now. It's just strictly a business.
I think you mentioned Stephen A. I got to talk about him because I think he's brilliant. Not for all the good things, and I don't mean that as a compliment. You're exactly right. He's very corporate in terms of, I always wonder if he had corporate training. This is exactly how executives are, and a lot of times in that situation. He pretends to be this brother guy and all that, and he kind of is, but man, he's slick with it. Man, he walks it back. He's talking to one group of people. Well, I'm gonna say this. Well, I'm gonna say that. He really dances on that line really good. So I give him credit. Don't hate the player, hate the game. I think there is a genius level to it. What kind of training do you have? Don't you have to talk about like what you do as far as if you have a different job or profession, but what type of training? I mean, you just decided just to go behind camera and just do it, but what else inspired you besides just your friend? I mean, what else? What type of training did you have to do this, or did you apply in media, anything like that before?
Nah, no training, nothing. I mean, the only thing that I could say was closest to prepare me for this was I used to work for Comcast. I worked for Comcast for almost 20 years. So essentially every day I'm going in 10, 15 different houses per day. So I have to have conversations with 10 to 15 different people or family members or whomever just tends to show up. So just me being comfortable with speaking to people, I think that made the transition a little bit easier, but I've never had any training. I like to talk.
I hear you. So what's next for you as far as what you're currently doing? Where do you want this to go forward? Because I think about that a lot myself, because the age I'm at now, people think I'm crazy for doing it. I'm too old for this. Family thinks it's weird. A lot of them think this is, but we're here, right? I mean, we're just doing Ravens YouTube, and we could be doing anything else. So what's next for you?
I'm trying to make this a business. Like, this is the only thing in my life that I've ever really wanted to do. Like, I never grew up thinking I want to be a doctor, I want to be a lawyer, I want to be a fireman. But when I got into YouTube, I really thought like this is something that I'm going to put my all in. Like, I spend an inordinate amount of time watching YouTube, studying YouTube, because I'm trying to learn everything that I can. Eventually, I want to go from in front of the camera to behind the camera. Like, I want to do editing. I'm trying to set up something to where I teach people how to grow on YouTube. Like, I'm trying to sell things and turn this into a legitimate business, but use YouTube as a platform to help me get there. So, yeah, I mean, I'm going to do this for as long as I can, but I just want to make some type of media company, like something, especially helping others. Like we were talking about earlier, like we all can win at YouTube. Like, this is not a race. It's not a competition. You can have 50 Ravens YouTube content creators and everybody can watch all 50 of them, and it doesn't hurt the other one. So help people grow, make some videos, edit some videos, do some other things, maybe manage some people, manage some sites, wherever this takes me.
Yeah. Because it took me like 2-3 times to watch before I saw it.
Do you think that that this is something that you said as far as you want to go, so this is something that you would want to do going forward? Would you trying to think of the right way to put it. How many others do you want to bring on? I mean, how many other people do you want to bring on as far as that goes? What type of content? We're African Americans. I see that like heavy in your content. Is that something that factors into that, or do you want all different types of people in the content? Because watching it, I kind of feel like it's for me and you here, like that type of content.
No, I'll bring along anybody. It doesn't matter to me as long as you're a good person. And I think that if you look at the chemistry that I have with the rest of the guys and ladies, like it's organic. And I met all of these people 2-3 years ago on the internet, and they're good people. And I think that's why we click, because like energies attract. So I don't care black, white, I don't care what you are. If you have good energy and you want to come along, I'll take along anybody, because I'm not selfish and I'm not looking just for me. Like, I know that this is something that can be generational. I think it can change people's lives. It's transformative in how it can help people in their daily lives, just bringing out the confidence. I was always a confident person, but this has made me even more confident. And maybe with old age, it made me care a lot less about what people think about me, about how they perceive me, because I have a goal in mind. Whether you like me, you don't like me, all I ask you to do is respect me. I'm trying to build something. I'm trying to leave something for my kids, my grandkids. And if anybody wants to come along, come on. But like I said, you have to be a good, genuine person.
Yeah, grandkids?
I got 2 of them.
Oh, man, we the same age. I don't like it. Like, you're a little bit old. My oldest daughter is like 18. Yeah, I don't like it. I guess that's
30.
30? Oh, wow.
About to be 31. Yeah.
So one more thing. You have an interest in music, right? I mean, I've heard you say that on the stream. Like you have interest in the music. Did you have a music channel or a music channel you were working with or something like that for? Or
yeah, it was Electric Relaxation with my man Dre that I worked at Comcast with. He has a channel, Mr. Galloway. 2 hours, and we talked about old school hip hop. We talked about music. We did a lot of fun things, but unfortunately, he had to do some other things at the time. I'm trying to talk him into coming back, but yeah, I mean, I love music. Music is my everything. You give me some music, I can do anything for as long as I need to, as long as I have music behind me.
So real quick, let's get to Irv Gotti here, real quick. Irv Gotti passed away, 54 years old. Mm-hmm. Too bad that he's, that's young to be passing away. So, I mean, that's young. I mean, considering, not, but 50, cool or uncool, what he's doing, as far as that goes with the trolling and all that. I know they didn't like each other that much, but where do you sit with that, Irv and 50 and that?
Listen, I'm gonna tell you right now, I don't pay attention to none of these people nowadays. Like, I've been so turned off to music with this new generation. I know how my grandparents felt now, but as far as somebody passing away, you got to let that stuff ride. Like, especially when you're that rich, that successful, that famous, you have other things to worry about. It's no reason to be that petty. Like, let it go, bro. He's gone and is not coming back. His family and friends are mourning, and you're just adding salt to the wound. So for me, just let it go. Like, I'm a very petty person, but there's a certain limit that I have to it. Like, I don't play around with certain things like that.
50 kind of reminds me of Trump in the sense, just stay with me in a sense, not similar in personality and everything, but successful by every metric. Donald Trump has been successful by every metric in life. 50 Cent's been successful, but they don't act like it. They, why are you even care that this guy is right. I kind of don't understand that. So, I'm more with you. Like, we should be letting this go. And I just don't understand him. But he's been so successful, very driven guy and all that. It's a shame. And they're not that different. Irv and 50 are not that different in terms of, they basically, a lot of ways, the same guy. Mm-hmm. I always thought they were him and Ja. As much as they were beefing, they were kind of very similar.
Yeah.
Thank you, Hendo, for joining us. Tell everybody where we can find you, your content and everything.
You can find me on the RouG Pod on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, and Blue Sky.
Blue sky. All right. Thank you, sir. All right. Thank you very much for all of you for joining us for the Ravori Sports Podcast. Enjoy right after this. We're going to have our Super Bowl preview if you're watching this for the first time as we're airing it. Thank you very much for joining us on the Ravori Sports Podcast, and you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.